Hello, and welcome, fellow viewers, to Caffrey News Network. I'm Brendan, your anchor for today, in which I'd like to present a special segment where I'll be reporting and discussing an article in relation to mental illness and stigma surrounding employment bias and hiring the mentally ill. Now, what exactly is mental illness, you may ask? Well, according to the American Psychiatric Association, aka the APA, mental illness is defined as the following. Mental illnesses are health conditions involving changes in emotion, thinking, or behavior, or a combination of these. Mental illnesses can be associated with distress and/or problems functioning in social, work, or family activities. Mental illness has been documented throughout history, but many people don't consider how mental illness can inhibit them on a daily basis, particularly deter them when it comes to employment opportunities. The sad reality being that stigma surrounding it is still prevalent to this day. In fact, a study performed by Bastini et al. At Texas Tech University. The study investigates negative stigma employers had with job candidates involving history of mental illness, criminal justice, or both. The ordeal was surprising, as despite each applicant being reported to be qualified in physical and educational aspects, a bias was still present if mental illness was observed in their history. In addition, for the sample of employers, they observed that a brief segment of training of work for employees would increase positive perceptions of applicants who exhibited conditions of psychiatric and criminal histories in their application. In order for Bastini to achieve the study, some conditions were placed for the subjects, which were being 18 years of age, capacity to speak fluent English, and have or had a job where hiring employees was or is a responsibility, or were seeking a job where hiring employees would be a responsibility. Involved in the study were 250 participants, with the results recorded across 5 different measures. The first being the Generic Work Behavior Questionnaire, or GWBQ, by Michonne, focusing on task competence, initiative, dependability, and social work behavior. The second being the Attribution Questionnaire by Brown, being 27 items assessing 9 common stereotypes held on mental illness. The third being the Social Distance Scale by Link, with a 6-item assessment for participants and their willingness to engage with someone with known mental illness. The fourth being the General Perceived Dangerousness Scale by Alexander, examining the extent participants perceived the candidate to be a threat or danger. And the fifth and final being the Level of Familiarity Scale, included 11 levels of yes-no levels of personal contact in regards to someone with mental illness and/or a criminal record. Statement for conditions 1 and 3. As you will see on my resume, I have not been working since set date. I was hospitalized for mental health treatment. The issues that led to my treatment are behind me, and I look forward to again beginning full-time employment. Statements for conditions 2 and 4. As you see on my resume, I have not been working since set date. I have suffered a serious physical injury and have had an extended hospital stay and recovery. The issues that led to my hospitalization are behind me, and I look forward to again beginning full-time employment. For the results, Hypes found that even though the candidates had an impressive resume with the sufficient credentials, the callback rate for applicants with no mental illness was slightly above 20%, with the rate of callback being 14.81% for those with mental illnesses, compared to 21.86% with a physical injury. Even with the assumption for less discrimination in telecommuting jobs, as there's minimal contact, it was the opposite. Telecommuting jobs were more competitive, with callback rates being 10.67% for those with mental illness and 18.79% for those with a physical injury. Thus, just like Bastini, Hypes found that the disclosure of mental illness caused fewer callbacks, thus highlighting the stigma and discrimination for individuals wanting to live their lives. In order to understand how deep this goes, considering how nuanced this topic is, We sent out our fellow reporters Esperline and Salem to interview the fellow community members and their opinions in regards to this subject.
Hi, I'm Salem, and we're out right now looking for someone to interview, and I think we just found a candidate. Excuse me?
Yes?
Excuse me, hi.
Hi.
Can I interview you, please?
Yeah, of course.
It's a project for psychology regarding bias in hiring people with mental illness and with a history of being incarcerated.
Okay.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah, of course.
First, what's your name, and do you have any background in psychology?
Yes, my name is Emily DC, and I'm currently a psychology student at the University of Central Florida.
That's perfect. Great. So, starting off, if you were in the position, would you be willing to hire a mentally ill person who's had a criminal record? Why or why not?
Well, first of all, I think it's very important that we as a society are more open to the idea of hiring ex-cons and felons, because the main purpose of the prison system, even though the American prison system doesn't tend to focus on that a lot, is to rehabilitate. And if we don't give them the chance to reintegrate into society, they're more likely to reoffend and recommit crimes and end up back in prison, and then we just have this terrible cycle.
Yes.
We as a society should want to push our felons forward and make them leave that life of crime if they have the chance, and they can't do that if they don't even have a job to pay money to find somewhere to live and keep up with what they need to keep up with.
Yeah.
As for mentally ill, there's a lot of negative stigma against mental illnesses, especially ones like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, as being violent, when that's only a fraction, a small percentage of the case. And I think that we need to stop stigmatizing those mental illnesses, so that all of them are not seen in such a negative light when it comes to hiring. Because if you have it under control, you have your medicine regimen down, you have a therapist, and you're in control of your situation, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to work a job or be a well-rounded individual.
Yeah. And just one more question. Do you believe it's important that everyone is allowed an equitable hiring process considering the presence of equal employment opportunity?
Yes, I do. Like, in the way our society is today, it's necessary that we work, and you need to work to live. And most people want to work. And I think by not allowing them because of minuscule reasons that can be taken care of, such as they're an ex-felon, especially when you don't know their background, or when they have a mental illness, and again, you don't know their background, it's not fair, because you're kind of judging them before you even get to give the person a chance. Obviously, if you hire them and it ends up not working out, like, you're done. You can fire them. There's like no reason for it to be like such a big deal, because you don't know the type of person they are and how much they're willing to work and how much they're willing to change. Also, for certain vulnerable demographics of people, you do get a tax write-off, and that's ex-felons and anyone else for that matter.
Yeah. Well, that was very insightful. Thank you so much for your time.
That's no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, what is your name and background, such as education and area of expertise?
My name is Kevin Jones. When it comes to my expertise, I went to trade school for HVAC work, so I'm an HVAC technician.
Okay, a technician, cool. Okay, yeah, you're my perfect candidate. Okay, for the first question, what is your opinion on mentally ill people working in your field?
In my field particularly, it's not quite good to be working in my field with mental problems, because you're dealing with a lot of personal, how should I say this, conflict. As people have different personalities that don't click well, and if you add on top of that with your own mental problems or issues, it's not going to do well, especially for like something like what I do is push sales, want to make some type of connection with the client. So in my position, you really need to have a clear, focused mind for that type of thing.
Okay. That is true. Yeah, I understand. Okay, the third question. Do you believe there should be leniency in the hiring process if someone has a criminal record?
It depends on how severe it is. Like, obviously you have the more extreme cases like murder, rape, and all the other stuff. But like little petty things like, oh, you had a bag of ounce of weed just caught up with that, or maybe a little stuff like you stole from a Publix. Not really. I feel like you should be able to get a second chance.
So it varies. It varies. It's very situational, and there's nuance to every situation. I like that. Okay. All right. For my final question, have you seen any progressive changes made for the inclusivity at your workspace?
I would say so, because there's a lot more people coming into the field, both men and female. It doesn't matter if it's racial, sexuality, or anything like that. So it's very open, and it's room to grow.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for today. Thank you.
No problem.
As these voices remind us, the conversation around mental health and hiring bias is far from over. While awareness continues to grow, many individuals still face stigma when seeking employment. Advocates say that through education, open dialogue, and more inclusive practices, real change is possible. Until then, the push for equal opportunity remains as important as ever. Thank you.